everyone. Welcome to the G Code. I have two very special guests with us today, Mr. Phil and Miss Trish Calandra from Tru Wealth Advisors. Welcome, you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us,
Thank you for having us.
So today we are going to talk about money, but several assets and factors when it comes to money. I know a little bit about your origin story. You're the co-founder, equity partner in a $10 billion firm, which is so cool. Obviously, you didn't start that way. I'm sure there was much more humble beginnings. So if one starts on one side of the spectrum and ends up to where you all sit right now, there had to be a point along the way where your definition or your thought or belief around true wealth changed.
Yeah.
Do you have a moment in time that's like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are many moments, as anybody would have, on their trajectory. The one that I always cite to people, I made my first $1 million net in my business in 2005 or 6. Inflation adjusted, it's about double that, but it was substantial. It was life-changing. And then the financial crisis hit. So, and this is hard because I was, as a financial strategist, a wealth manager, I was ashamed of this. I was embarrassed for many years to talk about this. And now, almost 20 years later, I remember sitting at my desk. It was late in the evening, 6:30, 7 o'clock. It was March of 2009. We were in the middle of the great financial crisis. By all measures, revenue, net income, I was crushing. And I had 8 cents in my business checking account. I sat with my face in my hands, just in tears. The payroll was due the next day. And my mother worked for me at the time. It was her name at the top of the payroll list. And I was in tears. I said, how in the hell does this happen? Well, everybody knows now the financial crisis, liquidity froze, the markets tanked, the S&P 500 dropped 57%. And here I was, a financial advice giver, making substantial revenue and personal profit, and I had nothing to show for it. That was pivotal to me. And what Trish and I have learned and built over the years since then gets us to where we are today. And now I'm able to talk about it. A lot of therapy, but we're able to talk about it. We're able to help people and hopefully make an impact. Why is it that people start businesses, they work their tail off, they get to the goal they set for themselves, and personally, they have all the leftovers? That's what needs to change for the entrepreneur, for the salon owner, for the people that are out there grinding, they're hustling. They start to have success in their business, and they're trapped by their business because they don't bridge the business wealth to the personal wealth.
Incredibly relatable. And especially for a salon owner. And to be honest, really cool and hard to believe that you were once in that situation with 8 cents in your bank account. And I think it's so cool that you said you saw your mom at the top of payroll. And I think that this is going to be important, us just touching on this for a little bit, because things with money and wealth building can seem very hard, very confusing. Salon owners want to avoid it. But you just said something that I think is very important to be kind of the North Star of this. You said you saw your mom's name. From my perspective, the story that you just told, like that's 8 cents. That's about as low as it can get without, totally going under. Besides just your natural grit and you wanting to be successful, was that like a big pusher, seeing your mom on there? And maybe even everything you had to lose, was that a big pusher of like, I've got to figure this out. I have to figure this out?
Well, yeah, because the deeper story, go back even further, that's a whole nother story. My father walked out on us when I was 13 years old. My mother made $16,000 a year, 3 kids at home. We didn't know we didn't have any money. And I came home from school one day. There was yellow tag on the front door and a padlock. We were evicted that day. So we certainly didn't come from money. And so to your point, Heather, when I saw that 8 cents and payroll due, when I tell you that that was life changing, because that was the question you asked. There are a series of things in everybody's financial life that are connected. It's their origin, it's their belief, it's their behavior of money. And Trish has her stories too. That's how we develop our money mindset. It's not just the scarcity mindset, the urgency mindset. So when I saw where I was in my own business, I said, well, I'll be damned. I'm going to figure this out. And I'm never going to let this happen to me again. And now Trisha and I are blessed into a place of life in our season of life that we can save a lot of people and make an impact for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners.
But everyone has their money story. Every single
100%.
person has their own money story.
Yeah.
So that's what I want everybody that's listening to really hear is, even if you think, oh, I'm not there yet, or this stuff is too confusing, I'd rather just talk about hair techniques or the best kind of reels to post. That all comes down to our livelihood, the types of lives that we want to live, the experiences we want to give our kids, the experiences we want to have with our significant others. And at the root of that, it requires money. For me, it's like your why has to be so big that it will pull you up from the pits of hell. If it's not big enough, if you're not thinking about it enough because you're not aware of it, because you won't sit in conversations like this, then you'll just pivot from thing to thing looking for greener grass when it's not going to be there. So I think it's like the foundation of this conversation needs to be, what are you doing this for?
Yeah.
And what are you willing to sacrifice as far as learning stuff that's hard, listening to what maybe you feel like boring stuff is, and then actually making fixes? Because if you're at a point where you run a $2 million salon or you run $1 million salon and then you were to lose it all, how would you be able to rebuild that? So I think that's an important thing to note here. So we've got, Phil, what you said, starting us off, but then you kind of touched on this, where the season of life that you guys are in right now, which seems to be like a pretty stellar season. But Trish, you guys say that you all have work optional status. What does that mean? And what does that look like for people that get there, if they ever even get there?
What that means is that our business doesn't run our life anymore. It's a pinnacle that you want to reach, but it's a series of small decisions and small choices that you make to reach that. And so it's a status that you work towards, and it's a process that you work towards. And it's not retirement. We could have retired when we exited our two businesses, but we looked at each other and we're like, we're too young. We have a lot more to do. We have a lot more people we can serve. And it's too exciting for us to build new businesses. We just have it in us. So, but work optional means that we have the choice to work, and we can work wherever we want. Right now, we're on vacation in Maine. So we choose to work, and we choose to work when we want to work. So it's work optional. So we had a wealth freedom number that we picked out, and we hit that number. And it could be any number for anyone. And again, it wasn't one decision, but we worked toward it. And we were our own test market. So Phil built the system and tested it on us. So that's how we know it works. And things broke along the way. We fixed them. So that's what it is. It's that we could step away from our business and it's still running. Our team is still working and we are still working. We're here doing a podcast. We're thrilled to do it. We're still working with our clients, but we're going to go kayaking later today. We're going to go eat lobster
that's the
later
life.
today. Yeah, it's fantastic. So you build a life that's work optional. You should be able to step away from your business without freaking out. You should be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Or when we're at home working, I have my business life built that I usually don't start meetings until 10 a.m. because I want to go to Pilates. I want to go to the gym and lift weights. I run errands in the morning. Phil, he gets up at 5 a.m. He has a different morning than I do.
Yeah.
So that's work optional.
Yeah. I think the way that we came to that, Heather, is we live in an environment, we live in a financial world as financial advice givers, that retirement is the pinnacle. That's the goal. And for people that are entrepreneurs, founders, if you're behind the chair, if you're building a salon, I like to think of us as kind of crazy. Because to be an entrepreneur or to create a business or to open the doors of your salon, you agreed to not take a paycheck, to wait, create value in the sense of, I'm going to sculpt someone's hair, I'm going to do their color, I'm going to do the right cut. I'm going to give something of value before I get paid one penny. That is not normal behavior. People don't do that. Most people get an education, they learn a skill, they find something they're passionate about, and they go and they get a job and they ask what the salary is, and they hope the salary covers the expenses and the bills. They work for 11 months. Then they go to the manager that they don't even like, and they ask how we did for the year. And maybe you get another day of PTO and you hope you get a 2% raise. If that sounds like suicide, like it does to me, that's why we're entrepreneurs. And when you think of it that way, retirement, the way Wall Street, the way your financial advisor, the way your mother's financial advisors talked about retirement, that made no sense to us. We got to a point a few years ago, like Trish said, where we wanted to create, we wanted to build, not out of a sense of, I've got to do this. I just posted something on our Instagram this morning looking at this amazing view. And I said, I always ask myself this question now: what would I do in my life if I knew I couldn't fail? Mm-hmm. Do that thing. And when you frame it that way, you won't fail. You'll keep going. You'll build the salon you want to build. You'll serve the people you want to serve in your community. And that's, to us, that's the benefit of work optional. I never want to retire. Well, maybe one day. But
for those of you listening, Ashley Thomas, you might know, she is the one who introduced me to Phil and Trish. They are her wealth advisors. When she was pitching me having them on, she was like, you and I both know we're never going to retire. And these people understand that. And I was like, that's so true. I mean, maybe one day, but I plan on working for a very long time. I feel like salon owners, when you say, what would you be doing if you knew you couldn't fail? I really do believe that almost all of the salon owners that I talk to feel like this is what they should be doing.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
Even if it's really, really, really hard right now, I really do think they're not people that are like, I need to be doing something else. And if they're like that, it's probably just because they've been in the trenches for so long. But if they had a little relief, they would not feel that way.
Agreed.
So when we talk about work optional status, now it's like, okay, how do we get to that point? And you guys have a framework or a method of generate, keep, multiply.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So really, the way that we got to work optional, after being through the shitter the way we had, excuse my French, but it was. Most business owners, the salon owner that's listening, the entrepreneur, the founder, you get really good at making money. You figure out your superpower, right? For your clientele, for any business, they dive into that. The side hustle turns into a real vocation. They start to make money. We call that a treadmill entrepreneur. A treadmill entrepreneur figures out in the salon how to speed up the treadmill. You can just keep going faster and faster, higher and higher, but the treadmill eventually breaks.
Yeah.
That's what we want to prevent. So in our method, in the way we look at Tru Wealth, the business owner uses the business, the superpower, their salon, their culture. You talk about Ashley. You talk about a culture in a salon.
Yes.
Upper echelon, right?
Yes.
He didn't start that way.
Mm-mm.
She cultivated that over time. So she figured out how to generate the fuel, that's the cash flow within her business. If you generate more money, then your number one expense is, of course, Uncle Sam. So you generate more, you have to learn how to keep more. And if you keep more, then you have to learn how to multiply it. And multiplication is what we call the personal wealth engine. That bridge from generating money out of your salon into your personal net worth is what most CPAs don't do. It's what almost no financial advisors do. Fractional CFOs don't do it because they haven't seen the connection, that full, what we call a financial ecosystem. Trish's best analogy is like the air traffic controller, right? We flew from Atlanta, Georgia to Maine, and God love the pilots and God love the air traffic controllers, because how do you have thousands of planes in the air without somebody orchestrating it? And that's what we discovered in our own business, and the Wealth Ascension system and the method we teach is coordination above everything else. It's connecting all those pieces so the financial ecosystem is being controlled, because the CPA is not doing it. They're looking in the rear view mirror, preparing tax returns. Maybe they do a little strategy.
Their compliance.
Totally.
You have a fractional CFO. I always scratch my head. I said, what's the purpose of me generating more profit in my business if I don't have somebody helping me keep it? And if I can't multiply it for my family, because that's why I'm doing all this anyway. So that's what we talk about: generate, keep, multiply. And where people are missing the biggest opportunity is that fragmentation. It goes on and on and on. And even though the treadmill can go faster and faster, you wake up one day and there's a great financial crisis and you have 8 cents in your bank account and you're like, whoa. And this is why it was so hard for me and Trish too. I was ashamed of that. I was like, well, let's not be ashamed of it anymore. Let's stand on it. Let's teach to it. And then my philosophy always was, if I can help other people make their fortune, then we'll have our fortune. It worked that way.
And most financial advisors were trained classically, like we were when we got licensed, and all of our continuing education is geared toward people that are W-2 employees that go to work. They have a 401k. We were trained to ask, when would you like to retire and how much less would you like to live on? And that's not how entrepreneurs think. That's not how we work. That's not how we are. So no offense toward those financial advisors. They do a great job for regular W-2 employees. So we flipped the script on that. And that's why Phil built the system for entrepreneurs. And that's why we are gearing towards people that think like us, people that work like us. And there's that gap between making all of this money, being a treadmill entrepreneur, and putting that and parlaying that into their personal wealth.
Love that. Phil, you had mentioned tax strategy.
Yeah.
If I look at all ends of this, I'm like, I would say for the salons that are producing over $1 million a year, even ones that are producing under, I think that is the biggest hole in our industry, is really understanding the tax strategy. If you had to narrow it down to one thing, maybe 3 things, I don't know what that looks like, but what would you say salon owners are just missing out on or don't understand or need to pay attention to on the side of tax strategy?
I think you're right. It's because the way that it's structured. We wanted a different structure. So when you went to your CPA, your accounting firm, they are looking in the rear view mirror. They're creating a compliance document. They are paid by you. They work for the IRS, because the IRS is one that dictates what numbers go in what boxes on the forms that they require. I don't want to get my tax strategy from the same person that's complying. I want to get my tax strategy outside of that. That's why we created our method. We call our advisors chief wealth officers. Who is the person that's in charge of building your family's wealth, your legacy wealth? So in your scenario, Heather, if they were giving you advice or they were building strategy, I would want to bump that up against somebody that had a long track record of business acumen, who had exits, who had, I've been on panel discussions and people have asked me, Phil, are you a CPA? I'll say, no, I am not. Are you an enrolled agent? No, I am not. And somebody said, well, then what qualifies you to give me tax advice? 25 years of building 2 multi-8-figure businesses with 2 exits that my wife and I built from the ground up and nearly failed multiple times. That's why. And the crowd was like, started clapping. It's like, great. That's where I think people are missing. If you know that the leak exists, if you know there are holes in the bucket, no matter how much revenue, no matter how many clients you see, no matter how you tweak that business in the salon, if you have holes in the bucket, no matter how much water you pour in, the bucket's never going to fill.
Yes.
So let's take a step away from that. And I love my CPA. He's been with me 14 years and I still have to bring him ideas. So be it.
And as a business owner, why should you have to bring the ideas to your CPA? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That never makes any sense.
That's true. One thing that I think everybody listening to us today, we're coming up on the end of, by the time they're listening to this, it will be into July. We will have 2 quarters down in the year. If you have not had 2 tax planning strategies with your advisor, you're behind. We want to talk to our clients quarterly. Specifically in the book, The Wealth Creation Method, I have a quarterly tax planning calendar. If anybody wants to get that, we can make it available to everybody. Specific things that you want to do throughout the year. The tax strategy can't be done in December or, heaven forbid, February or March.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's compliance. That's not reduction strategy.
Really good because it's actionable. The people that are listening, if they should do one thing right now, and they've been avoiding it, they've been putting it off, but they're like, okay, I need to deal with this. I need to sit in the discomfort because I keep putting it off. What would you say that to them directly? Like, you need to do this, this, and this. What would those be? Like starting tomorrow.
They need to look at their numbers. They need to actually peel back and look at their numbers, figure out what their wealth freedom number is, and then have the conversations. And
so let's dig into that a little bit. Their wealth freedom number. When you say that, that's the goal that they want to be at.
So yeah, we frame it. The wealth freedom number is different for everybody. It is that amount of money that makes you work optional. For one salon owner, it might be $1 million net worth, investable, not your home, not the value of your business. Maybe it's $1 million. For somebody, it might be a pentamillionaire. That's $5 million. For some, it might be a decamillion. That's $10 million. Your wealth freedom number is specific to you. That's the goal. But remember, goals are things you can see. Targets are things you can hit. Milestones are the most important. Milestones are the things that you check off and say, okay, I'm here. I'm going to move to the next, it's like running. If you've ever had an endurance event in your life, I'm just going to run to the next telephone pole. That's it. And then I'm going to run to the next telephone pole. Those are milestones. The goal is 26.2 miles. The milestone's just one freaking step, one mile, right? That's the way you need to think about wealth building. So I would say starting tomorrow, you could ask yourself this one question. What's important about money to you? I get frustrated because I've lived this. It's not, I want to have $1 million. It's not, I want to have 20 million. It's not that. What's important about the money? Because if you're only focused on the money, it's not going to be true wealth. It's going to be empty. Trish and I have sat with multi-millionaires that have great wealth, vast fortunes. They're not healthy. They have no relationship with their family, like my scenario with my father. What good is that? So I would say tomorrow morning, what's important about money to you? That's your goal, the wealth freedom number. And then look at where you are and close all those gaps. Because if you're not where you want to go, you can't stop. What would you do if you couldn't fail? You keep going. You keep figuring it out. You reach out, find if you've got an accountant or a CPA that you just feel in your gut. And women's intuition, oh my God, over our years together, my wife will be able to spot it a mile away. She said, no, that just does not feel right. So use your gut feeling. If you're working with advice givers that are not helping you get from milestone to milestone, target to target to goals, fire them.
But first, look at your numbers. Look at your actual numbers, because a lot of times, salon owners, it doesn't matter which business you're in, you need to look at your numbers. And we have a tool for this, a very simple tool, and you can score yourself. And that will give you the clarity, and you'll see where your numbers are. And it's very
And that's the wealth creation scorecard.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to link that in the show notes for people to access, and it's free, right? They can go there.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah.
The wealth creation scorecard we created just because there are gaps.
Right.
There are 3 gaps that you have to identify, and they happen to fall within generate, keep, and multiply. We also call those the wealthy entrepreneur's flywheel. So your salon is the flywheel. That is the fuel. That is the domino profit is the domino that knocks over every other domino. The second keep is the tax reduction code. If I make more, damn it, I want to pay my fair share, but I don't want to pay more. And then the third is the personal wealth engine. And the personal wealth engine is what is the magic of the wealth freedom number. It's extracting fuel, feeding the fire so that you reach the wealth freedom number. So I would, to Trish's point, know your numbers. And it's not enough. I get very uneasy when I talk to entrepreneurs that talk about their revenue. Revenue is vanity. Profit is sanity. Cash is freedom. So I don't care. I mean, congratulations. If you've built your salon to 500, 750, a million, 2 million, 5 million of revenue, celebrate that. But what's more important, if you want to build real, true wealth, is the profit, and more important is the cash flow. That's what builds it.
That's so true. Such a good point. I love that. So we're going to put the wealth creation scorecard in the show notes. What is your all's Instagram?
At Tru Wealth
Advisors. At Tru Wealth Advisors. It's TruWealth Advisors with an S.
Yeah.
Perfect. We'll put that in the show notes as well. Thank you guys so much. This was so valuable.
Thank you.
Really, really good conversation. Loved your storytelling. And hopefully this is something that salon owners will be able to take away some good meat from. And make sure that you guys download the Wealth Creation Scorecard. And obviously, if you have any questions for Phil or Trish, reach out to them on Instagram and see if there is a way that you guys can work together, because clearly you guys know what you're doing. Is there any final things that you would want to say before we hop off?
Thank you, Heather.
The last thing I would say is we can also put in there a free download for my book, The Wealth Creation Method. If you also would just DM us through Instagram. It did make Amazon bestseller, but I don't want your listeners to have to buy it. Just message us. I want the message to get out, because it will make a big impact. And we're here to serve people if we can help.
We already heard how you impact salon owners. So we're happy to answer any questions. We're here. Anything anyone needs, just DM us.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.